In the early and mid 1980s, Tim Burton was working for Disney as an animator, art director, and more. He participated in the production of several company films, but on the side, he was working on his own projects. Vincent and Frankenweenie, both of which were appreciated by those who saw them, were deemed far too dark by the Walt Disney Corporation, who promptly fired Tim Burton for wasting their time on these ideas. Rather than exiting the film industry and finding something else to do, Tim Burton went and directed a few movies you might have heard of before. Pee-wee's Big Adventure, Beetlejuice, Batman, Edward Scissorhands. You know, 4 films that grossed a combined $750 million. So when Burton decided to turn his poem, The Nightmare Before Christmas, into a feature film, Disney still owned the rights to it, as he'd originally written the poem while under contract. But now, with a handful of hits under his belt, wouldn't you know it, Disney were ecstatic to not only put the film into production, but plaster Burton's name all over it. Funny how things change, right? The Nightmare Before Christmas is the most important film of my entire life. It might be the single most important piece of art that I have ever experienced. This movie shaped me from the time that I was a child to... there are still elements of this one that I've carried throughout my 33 years of existence. Today, we will dive deep into Halloween Town. Welcome to Scream Sequence, razor-sharp reviews of your favorite creepy classics. Every video here on 616 Entertainment is made possible by my supporters over on Patreon. If you enjoyed the show here today, consider signing up. You'll get early access, exclusive videos and podcasts, and more. Pro Wrestling Tees has the merch. As always, thank you for watching. The story of The Nightmare Before Christmas has us following the Pumpkin King, Jack Skellington. His home, Halloween Town, spends the entire year preparing and practicing to make each and every Halloween the scariest yet. But after decades of darkness and despair, Jack Skellington's had enough. He's seen it all, he's done it all. The whole town looks to him as a leader, but he feels there's got to be more out there, somewhere. He wanders off through the night and stumbles upon a series of mysterious doorways, one of which leads him to somewhere new, Christmas Town. Its bright colors, cheerful denizens, and celebratory attitude show Jack all he needed to see to set him straight. Halloween Town must take on a new project, and they must embrace this Christmas spirit in doing so. But try as he might, Mr. Skellington can't manage to drill what makes Christmas what it is into the hearts and minds of his hometown crowd. Figuring, hey, they're willing to try, I will compromise. What Jack and the gang wind up running with isn't a traditional Christmas at all. It's a twisted, broken, dead, and decayed iteration of the holiday. And with Santa out of the picture, there's no way to stop it. Oh, I should mention, Jack sent Lock, Shock, and Barrel to go pick up Santa Claus so that Jack could tell good old Saint Nick that he'll handle things this year. But these little troublemakers purposely go against Jack's orders, kidnapping Santa and delivering him directly to Oogie Boogie, the one true villain of Halloween Town. So Jack has zero guidance. He's dangerously overconfident, and despite warnings from his close friend, Sally, that this will all end horribly, Jack presses on. On Christmas night, he delivers the new and improved, though truthfully awful, toys to the children, who are immediately terrorized. Parents alert the police, and Jack is blown out of the sky, labeled an imposter, dashing his dreams of revitalization. Fortunately, this isn't the end of the story. This is just the wake-up call Jack needed. He rescues Sally and Santa Claus from the evil Oogie Boogie, Santa saves Christmas, and Halloween Town is graced with a Christmas of their very own. The Pumpkin King finally realizes that he's lucky to have someone like Sally by his side. He's lucky to have friends and neighbors like the citizens of Halloween Town, and they all live happily ever after. Now, I realize that most of you have seen this movie a million times if you've seen it once, so one could argue that there was really no point in me recounting the plot, but this is an iconic film and we have to do it justice. Look, the story is beautiful, and I think most of us can relate to what Jack is going through. We're in a position where people appreciate what we do, but in the moment, we don't really recognize how good we have it. Sometimes we make mistakes looking for something new and exciting when everything we've ever needed is right there in front of us, and has been this entire time. There's also a lesson in there about listening to the woman in your life, who not only wants the best for you, but she's probably seeing things a little more clearly than you are. And if you would just take her advice, you could probably save yourself a ton of time and heartache. How about it? I've been there. The stop-motion animation of The Nightmare Before Christmas took 3 years to complete. Director Henry Selick states in the making of, on the Blu-ray, that at any given time, there were up to 20 stages completely filled with animation sets, with a team of 15 animators working at the same time. The sets were often constructed with breaks hidden in the seams so the animators could get as close to the action as possible. There were multiple puppets of each character, meaning that several scenes involving Jack or Sally could be in production at once. The animation itself was shot at 24 frames per second, which obviously means that every single second of screen time required 24 individual photographs. Facial expressions were captured through a collection of heads being popped on and off for every individual syllable a character would speak. Jack Skellington alone possessed over 400 different heads. Yeah, now it's starting to make sense how this took 3 years to shoot, right? 1 minute of screen time often required an entire week to photograph. Jeez-a-loo. I love watching the cloth deform in unnatural ways. It's moving erratically like this because it's being repositioned by someone's fingers over and over again. It's like watching King Kong's fur move around, you know? This is magic. This is what magic looks like. When I was little, and to be clear, I discovered this movie in 1993 or 1994. I was there. I had the tape. I damn near ruined the tape from watching it so many times. I always loved watching this spiral hill unwind, allowing Jack a safe way down. I literally cannot explain what this did for me. This image instilled and awakened a crave for creativity in my being. I don't know, Dan-Dans. And speaking of that tape, back then, I couldn't tell that Zero's nose was a jack-o'-lantern. I thought it was simply glowing red like Rudolph. Blu-ray changed that. But for real, the Mummy Kid sounding the alarm where the alarm is a cat and you ring it by twisting its tail, the coffin-shaped guitar with a dead body inside. Who the hell would ever live in a tower like this? Sally's sewing machine thread being represented as silk from a spider. The bathtub with legs walking around. I can't do it justice. It's brilliance. Sheer brilliance. I didn't know until I was older that Chris Sarandon performed Jack Skellington's spoken dialogue, with Danny Elfman handling his singing. I couldn't even tell the difference. Catherine O'Hara as Sally is iconic, and she's on the speaking and singing duty, the queen that she is. One of my funnier discoveries was learning that the same guy who plays Dr. Finkelstein played Uncle Lewis in another childhood classic, Christmas Vacation.
Wormswort and frog's breath. You couldn't hear a dump truck driving through a nitroglycerin plant.
That is so funny to me. It's also important to note, and again, I understand many of you know this already. Yes, Tim Burton wrote the original poem. He designed all of the characters. He crafted the story, the design, the aesthetic, the look and feel of the world. But he didn't direct this film. That would be Mr. Henry Selick, who described the job as being told to make a Tim Burton film. According to Selick, Disney didn't add Tim Burton's name to the title until 3 weeks before the film released, as an attempt to cash in on his recent successes. Tim Burton was directing Batman Returns while Nightmare was in production. It wasn't possible to do both at the same time. Henry Selick is the man. He also directed James and the Giant Peach, he directed Coraline, and more. Hey, do you remember Jack Skellington popping up in James and the Giant Peach? It's not Jack Skellington, this character's name is Captain Jack, but that is indeed the same puppet. How you doing? For me, there's literally no better example of timeless film than The Nightmare Before Christmas, and if I could, I would place this movie in the never touch category forever. Don't ever do a sequel, don't ever do a prequel, don't ever do a remake, leave it alone, never touch it. It's perfect, stop it. Director Henry Selick for decades said that he was open to doing a sequel, or he was open to doing a prequel. But whenever Tim Burton was asked, he would immediately shut it down. He would say that not only does he not want to participate, but he doesn't ever want to revisit this universe again. Thank you. Thank you. In 2003, Disney wanted to do a sequel, and they wanted to do it with CG animation rather than stop motion. Tim Burton spoke up and said, hey, no, stop. In 2019, the talk kicked up again. Tim Burton once again was like, no, I'm not going to do it. And from what I can gather, those 2019 talks resulted in a novel for young adults, which apparently released in 2022. That's fine. You can do that all day. If you want to do video games, if you want to do stage plays, do whatever you want with that stuff. Never make another movie. Leave it alone. Your books, your games, all that stuff. Jack Skellington and Fortnite, that's all non-canon. I don't have to worry about that. But yeah, leave it alone. Never touch category. Forever. Upon its initial October 29th, 1993 release, the film made money, bringing in over $50 million at the box office. But the meteoric rise took time. Jack Skellington wasn't always an icon. He wasn't always on backpacks and drinking glasses. The audience, both kids and adults, raised The Nightmare Before Christmas higher and higher throughout the decades. The movie returns to theaters constantly, to this day. It has its own amusement park attractions, video games, merchandise, so on and so forth. It was entered into the Library of Congress for preservation as recently as 2023. And look, this is all well and good, it's great, but for me, none of that matters. I knew when I was 3, 4 years old that this film would always be important to me. I showed off my Sweeney Todd razor in that episode, noting that my dad bought it for me for Christmas. Well, I've got a little more show and tell for you. Another Christmas gift from my dad. Man, some things you just can't put into words, you know? And the memories don't stop. In 2019, the beautiful Tara Darcy and I went to the Auditorium Theater to see the Chicago Philharmonic play along with the entire film. The Nightmare Before Christmas came together when Tim Burton looked at The Grinch Who Stole Christmas and thought, what if an outsider looked at Christmas and loved it, wanted to contribute to it and improve it, rather than hate it and destroy it? And you know what? We can all do that in our own ways. There's so much hate in this world, so much misery and despair. It never hurts to take a step back and wonder what we can do to help, what we can do to ease the pain. We can all create a smile. That's easy. Whether it's a smile that resembles the bow of Christmas lights or the wings of a bat, that all just comes down to style. At the end of the day, it's the thought that counts. That's where it all starts. There's no way to close a video like this, you know? I would not be making any of these videos today if it weren't for The Nightmare Before Christmas. So it is at this time that I guess I would just like to say thank you to the man himself, Tim Burton. Thank you to Henry Selick. Thank you to everybody who was involved with this project. This film shaped who I was as a child. It shaped who I was as a teenager, and there are elements of it that I still carry with me to this day. I could talk about this movie for hours, but we don't have that kind of time, you know? And let me say thank you to you as well, the viewers, the Dan-Dans. This is it. This is the finale. This is the final episode of Scream Sequence 2024. 13 brand new in-depth horror film reviews inside of 1 month was such an incredible undertaking. I had no idea whether or not I was going to be able to pull this off. And full disclosure, I started working on these in late August. I am shooting this right now on October 21st, so I'm still not done. I'm cutting it that close. You can support me if you like over on Patreon or right here under YouTube channel memberships, but honestly, that is not nearly as important as just having fun today, having fun on Halloween, having a safe Halloween, and making new memories for yourself. Scare somebody today, make somebody laugh today, just have a good time. That's what Halloween is all about. Until next time, I love ya, Panda Bear Karloff loves ya, and we will see you soon.